recommendation from the Department of Agriculture. You have full. You can do whatever you want. You stand in the back, you can come to the front, whatever you want. You're welcome to stay there if you like.
First off, my name is Robin Nicholson. I represent the Department of Agriculture's Animal Protection and Equine Health Division. First off, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys pass that around. That is a copy of our rules and regulations that all licensed facilities in the state of Georgia are to abide by. I'm going to hit on a couple of things real briefly. First off, what we do is we license facilities that have anything to do with the companion animal industry in Georgia and equine. Currently, right now, I patrol and regulate Harris, Meriwether, Troup, Pike, Muskogee, Taylor, Talbot, Upson, Crawford, Monroe, and Lamar counties. So if anyone here knows anybody that lives in those counties that need a license for anything I'm about to talk about, please call me. Come see me. First off, let me talk about the types of licenses that we issue. We have what's called a pet dealer license. Okay. This license goes to anyone who breeds or sells more than 1 litter of puppies a year, okay, or kittens. All right. This license is also reserved for any rabbitries. Anybody that breeds and sells pet rabbits. We're not talking about eating rabbits, okay. The other license that we issue is called a shelter license. This license is reserved for rescue groups, humane societies, animal shelters, and animal control. And I'm going to get into just a second the difference between an animal shelter and animal control, because I think that's a topic of debate in Upson. The next license is a kennel license. This license is reserved for grooming shops, boarding facilities, and training facilities. Okay? Anytime you take possession of an animal that is not yours, and you are training this animal for a fee, you don't necessarily have to board this animal. This animal does not have to stay with you overnight. If this animal is in your possession for 5 minutes, you need a kennel license. Okay? And our other license is a bird dealer's license, and of course that's just what it says. It deals with exotic birds. The exotic bird industry is extremely important to the Department of Agriculture, simply because Georgia is the #1 poultry distributor in the nation. So anybody that has exotic birds, that breeds exotic birds, is strictly monitored by the state for that purpose. There's a lot of bird diseases out there that can get into not only the native population, but also the poultry that we consume. Okay. Sort of what constitutes licensable activity, I kind of touched on that just then. Pretty much any of those things that I just mentioned is considered licensable activity. Humane societies and rescue groups, real quick. I'm not going to get into it a whole lot because there's I could be here for an hour talking about licensable activity that consists with humane societies and rescue groups. But pretty much, if you are taking possession of an animal for adoption, okay, and that animal is not yours, and you're adopting that animal out for a fee, or you are soliciting donations for adoptions, you need a shelter license in order to do that. To my knowledge right now, the Upson County Humane Society is not the licensed facility. To my knowledge, it is a education-based entity at this point. I've heard rumor that they have animals for adoption on certain websites and this type of thing. Unfortunately, due to the vast area that I'm tasked with regulating, I have not been able to actually go in and verify that information for myself, but the department is looking into it, as well as others. But that's pretty much sort of in a nutshell what we do. And again, we also do the equine. I also do horses, and licensed stables, and rescue groups, and this type of thing that have to do with horses. Very briefly, I know Dr. Crawford is here and is going to touch on the euthanasia part of this, but I just want to touch on the requirements from a state level as far as euthanasia goes. Record keeping. Long time ago, back in the Tommy Irvin days, there was a verbal agreement between the Department of Ag and DEA that we would regulate and monitor the use of euthanasia and narcotic drugs at the animal shelters and make them keep up with the needed paperwork. However, as of January 1st, pretty much all we are tasked with now is making sure that shelter personnel have a current lay letter or certification letter with the supervising vet, that those persons that are certified to perform euthanasia have been properly certified in the methods of euthanasia, which are the IP method, or intraperitoneal, and IV method, or intravenous method. We no longer approve the IC method, simply because it was noticed in several of our shelters, not Upson County, but several of our other shelters, that the method was just not being properly utilized. So we no longer approve the IC method, which was intracardial. But of course, I'm sure everyone knows the gas chambers are now outlawed as of December 31st, 2010. I don't think Upson County ever fell under the whole gas chamber thing, but that's no longer used. And that all of our animal shelters are now required to have a set of scales to properly and accurately weigh the animal and a stethoscope to verify death of the animal prior to it being disposed of. That's pretty much all we require as far as the euthanasia goes. Everything else from the shelters are still required to keep up with accurate records. They are still required to properly store the solution if they so choose to store it at that particular facility. I don't think that applies to Upson County. I don't believe they store any narcotics on the premises overnight. But that's pretty much all we look at now. Everything else is handled by DEA at this point. And that's pretty much in a nutshell what we require. I'm going to talk just a second about Upson County Animal Shelter directly. I've been regulating the Upson County Animal Shelter for several years. In that time, I have not found any violations that needed to be issued on the Upson County Shelter. I have only dealt with SMART in all the years that I've done this. I don't believe anybody else has ever been in his position since I've been regulating this territory. Very briefly, I want to put into perspective Upson County as it stands up against the rest of shelters as a whole in our area, which would be West Central and South Georgia. Upson County is very lucky to have an animal shelter, period. Most of the counties that I deal with, and most of the counties in South Georgia, their animal control is the sheriff's department. Okay, that's it. Anytime we can find a county that has an animal shelter, it's a blessing for us. Of course, we make sure that things are done correctly, but I have been able to review the policy, as old as it is, but I have reviewed the policy for Upson County Animal Shelter. In that policy, Upson County Animal Shelter is not responsible or obligated to even hold public adoptions. Okay, I'm not sure if everybody has had a chance to read the policy. Animal control, as just by itself, has an obligation to the stray and nuisance animal population. That's it. The fact that Upson County Animal Shelter has gone above and beyond to provide public adoptions, to allow rescue groups and the Humane Society to come in, take pictures of animals and this type of thing, is I think it's just a testament to the service that it provides the community. The holding period, to my knowledge, according to the policy, is 3 days. Anytime after that 3 days, it is the call of the animal shelter as to what to do to for that animal. The holding requirements are not issued by the state. We don't recommend holding requirements. We don't solicit for any kind of holding requirements. All we do is uphold the current policy that's in place. We cannot come in and change it in any way just because we're the state. Even though we are the state, if there is a written policy in place, if there is a written ordinance in place, we are obligated to uphold the ordinance of that city or county. We can recommend changes, and as of late, I have come into the animal shelter and recommended some cosmetic changes that need to be made to the shelter, and that has been, I believe those changes have been accepted on a proposed budget for the shelter. And one other thing that I wanted to touch on quickly is that despite public opinion, all inspections are random. We don't call anyone to tell them we're coming. We don't make plans a week in advance so that everybody can clean up and it looks pristine when we get there. We get what we get when we get there. And it has been to date that the animal shelter has always been found in good repair, sanitized properly, and so forth when we got there. So we've had, from the state level, we've had no problems with Upson County Animal Shelter, and that's pretty much all I had to say.
Well, as chair of the board, did I call you and ask you to come here?
Absolutely not.
Have I had any conversation with you?
Absolutely
about
not.
coming here? Has anybody on this board contacted you about coming here?
Absolutely not.
Thank you for coming and your willingness to come. Is there any questions or comments from the board?
One question.
Sure.
Did I hear you right when you said the Humane Society is not licensed?
Absolutely. That is correct. The Humane Society of Upson County has never held a state license.
So is it illegal for them to advertise animals?
No, they can advertise. They can advertise. To my understanding, just based on the research that we've done, they do have their nonprofit status, which is the first step in acquiring a state license. Because and the reason we do that is because they solicit donations. And in order to solicit donations, you have to have your nonprofit status and your 501(c)(3) with the IRS. We don't deal with the 501(c)(3) too much. That's just between them and the IRS. We don't get involved in that, but they do have to have acquired their nonprofit status. To my knowledge, the animal shelter does solicit the donations, but they're covered with that with their nonprofit status. However, if it is found that they are, and this is for any rescue group or humane society, that they are obtaining possession of animals for adoption, whether they're fostering them in other houses, in other homes, or so forth, then they are in direct violation of Georgia state law. And they will, unfortunately, that when it does come to light that they try to acquire a license, that will be brought to bear in considering them for a license.
Anything else? Anything else from the board? Question, comments? If not, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Doctor.